Welcome to the GrayHawk DJC podcast. In today's podcast, we talk with Nick Schiele, head football coach at John Paul II High School in Plano, Texas. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Doing well. Appreciate the opportunity here.
All right, thank you for coming on the podcast. I know we don't know each other, but thank you for reaching out back to us and coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. Excited.
All right. So you are the head football coach at John Paul II High School. We're in Plano, Texas, and for the viewers, it's a suburb of Dallas. How long have you been the coach here?
This is my 12th year now, second as head coach.
Okay. So how did they bring you into the school, I guess? How'd you start?
So I started as a long-term sub in 2012.
Okay. What topic were you teaching?
Freshman English.
Okay.
Coaching football and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for about 6 years. Taught full-time after that first year.
Were you mostly a volunteer at this time, or?
Part-time stipend
Okay.
coach. So,
Right.
wasn't making a whole lot back then.
Sure.
But yeah, after 6 years in the classroom, I convinced the powers that be to create a position for me. So I was the sports information director for the next 4 years.
Okay.
To kind of help grow our athletics program.
What does an information director do?
Oh gosh, quite a lot. Help schedule games, deal with social media across all of athletics, ticketing, live streaming.
Oh wow. Okay.
Helping out with the little facilities here and there. Other duties as assigned, of course.
Sure.
So yeah, that was a great learning experience. And then these last 2 years is all football.
Were you primarily focused on football when you were coaching, or were you doing other sports as well?
Helped out for baseball for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Got the chance to work with my former baseball coach here, which was really cool. But football's kind of always been my first love, so
Right.
Decided to go full-time football.
So when you first helped with the football team, what were they making you do, or what were you doing for them?
By this time I've probably coached just about every position.
Okay.
Started out with the secondary DBs. I was kind of a linebacker safety type in high school, so that was kind of what I was familiar with.
Okay.
Then moved to running backs. I coached O-line for a year. That was interesting. I've coached special teams, I think, for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been the special teams coordinator, and yeah, now I'm the guy in charge. So.
Right. So 2 years ago, take us through what happened that got you hired as head coach, I guess.
Yeah, there's been quite an up and down road here at JP2 with football.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first, I guess, 10 years, we've competed in TAPS 6A, or TAPS Division 1.
Right.
The biggest division of private schools in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Some pretty stiff competition, and we've taken our lumps. We made a pretty good run in 2019. Broke some school records and made some history that way. We defeated Bishop Dunn for our first ever district win in 11 overtimes.
Right. And as context, just so people know, you guys opened the school in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
That was your first class. So you're not even 20 years old. And in the state of Texas, typically the private schools and public schools are separated, right? They don't play in the same leagues or conferences
Right.
necessarily. Okay.
Right. Yeah. We don't get to play public schools very much, and I think they like it that way.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, we made a good run in 2019, made it to the state final.
Mm-hmm.
But we've struggled to kind of get back to those levels of success. So, change was made, and George Teague, former Dallas Cowboy, Alabama great, is our athletic director.
Oh, currently?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay.
He tabbed me to kind of, man the helm here and try and right the ship a little bit, and hopefully we're headed in the right direction.
Right. And you're a former alum of John Paul II, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is, near and dear to your heart, I guess. How the last 2 years been for you personally, I guess? Just.
It's been great. It's been great, really. We went 0-8 last year as a team. Didn't have a JV team, and and really it was more of kind of a fight to survive, get to the end of the year. But I got to give all the credit in the world to our players, because they kept showing up.
Yep.
They refused to quit, and now we're seeing kind of the starting to see the fruits of that here. The program's bigger than it was last year. We're going to have 2 teams again. So I think the buy-in from the players has never wavered, and it's really on their shoulders to kind of push this thing forward. I just got to kind of point them in the right direction.
Right, right. How many teams are in TAP 6A right now?
It fluctuates every
Okay.
2 years. There's realignment. So depending on the overall school size, they'll say, well, you guys got to drop down, you guys got to drop up. But we're actually TAPS independent.
Okay.
Because of the changes that were made 2 years ago, we made the decision to go independent. So we don't have a set district's schedule.
Okay.
We can essentially play whoever we want, which is nice.
And the league lets you do this. You don't have to be part of a conference or a district or anything like that. Okay.
Right. Now there's a flip side of that. There's no playoffs, and there's no district superlatives. All district, all state, nothing like
Oh,
that.
okay. Okay.
But the hope is that you don't have to stay independent forever, right? You can, once you get your numbers back up, have a little success, you can go re-enroll in the big boy division.
Is that the plan, to, once you get more, I guess, experience with your team, to go back to the district?
I think
format?
so.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, we got to reevaluate and see how this year goes, but it's a 2-year cycle, so
I see.
I'm hoping that's an option for us.
How many games are you playing this year then?
We've got 10 games for the varsity and another 10 for the JV squad.
What kind of opponents are you playing this year? Are they a mix of public and private schools, or mostly private schools, or are you traveling?
Yeah. I think we've got a good group, good mix of teams. We've got a couple big road trips. We're going to Houston to play St. Thomas, who's always a competitive team.
Right.
They're always in the playoff mix in Division I. And then we're going to Monroe, Louisiana. Excited to take the boys out of state for a little road trip, and we're going to play St. Frederick. They're just outside of ULM's campus there.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's a little Louisiana-Texas rivalry there.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then maybe our biggest opportunity is we call it the Catholic Bowl.
Okay.
We get to go play at the Cowboys facility up in Frisco.
Who are you
the
playing this
Star. We're playing a team called Sacred Heart out of Munster.
Okay.
This will be the 3rd year that we've played there now. Really cool opportunity. The boys just love it. We get to hang out in the locker rooms, and
Right.
it feels like a big time game for them.
Sure.
We played St. Thomas 2 years ago, and a different team out of Louisiana last year. That'll be week 3 for us, so pretty early on, but that'll be one that we get up for.
How did the school get the Star to agree to this? Because usually that's reserved for the Frisco schools, right?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Man by the name of Patrick Steenberg, he runs a group called Global Football, nonprofit that helps kind of spread football all over the world, really. And he's got some connections here in Dallas and Fort Worth, and so there's actually going to be 2 games on that day. Fort Worth Nolan
Okay.
is going to be the other team playing. St. Edmund out of Louisiana.
Okay.
They'll be in the other game. And so he started this initiative a couple years ago, and wanted to feature some Texas schools versus some out-of-state schools. And it's a really cool deal.
Right.
We're going to go have dinner with the other 3 teams the Friday before. The game will be on a Saturday.
Okay.
So a little bit of fellowship too, have mass together. So trying to make it bigger than football.
Yeah, that sounds really cool, actually, because I've been to the Star, never been in the football stadium, but that sounds, if I was a high school kid, I'd be like, this is incredible. I mean,
Yeah, it's a cool deal.
is there any connection with the Cowboys? Do they take you on a tour of the facilities or anything, or is it just the game, right?
Yeah, just
Okay.
the game. The boys will get to tour kind of the underbelly of the stadium.
Sure.
Which is nice.
Awesome. But so let's find out about you a little bit. Take us back, where you grew up, where you're from, friends, family, where you went to school, all that stuff, I guess.
Sure, yeah. Born and raised here in Dallas. lived here till I was about 9. I went to Prince of Peace grade school, Catholic school right down the road. We moved up to New Hampshire for about 6 years and lived there, right as the Boston sports scene was booming, and really kind of fell in love with sports up there. And then moved back after my freshman year of high school. Had just started playing tackle football and was a 3-sport guy.
How is the football in Massachusetts?
It's good, man. You don't sleep on it.
Don't sleep on it? Okay.
We believe it or not, we won a state championship my freshman year.
Oh, wow.
Went to a
Okay.
little school in Nashville called Bishop Girton.
But this was 11-man football still.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Now I was a freshman, so didn't see the playing field for varsity.
Right.
But got to see it kind of from the sideline and suit up with the.
How are their
older
stadiums and
guys.
intensity up there compared to here, I guess?
It's comparable. I think the
Okay.
scale's different, right?
Mhm.
But I remember the stadiums being packed, and now the weather that's the biggest difference, right? So
Right.
you get into October and November, and you're playing football in sub-freezing temps and snow. So
How is that, playing in the snow? Because you don't get that a lot here.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's you think it'd be fun,
Uh-huh.
but those old helmets, man, we used to wear, the air in those pockets would just freeze, and it's like hitting with bricks on your head. So,
Right.
I don't miss that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you came to Texas.
Mhm.
I guess went to John Paul, right?
Yeah. So I was a sophomore when the school first opened, and everybody was new, right? So you had kids coming in from all over.
Why'd you pick John Paul instead of any other
Um,
place? Or
Really didn't have a choice. My folks said this is where you're going to school,
Okay.
so
do you know
they're
why they
paying
picked
for it.
the new school? I guess. Or
It was really kind of between here and Jesuit, and I
Okay.
think Jesuit was just a little far for us. We were
Okay.
we were living up in Allen, so
oh wow. That's a
that
drive,
would have been a
yeah.
bit of a drive.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
How's John Paul back in the day, or the first year? I guess.
It was interesting, man. Everybody was new. They were trying to build this school kind of from scratch. The school was small enough, numbers wise, that we really didn't use kind of that half of the building. A lot of classrooms were just
What was
empty.
the size of the first class? Do you remember?
The junior class, the class above me, I think they graduated with 67,
Okay.
and we had 90 something
All right.
a
Were you-
year later.
There was
So-
football, I guess, but not varsity football, right?
Yeah, the very first year
Uh-huh.
we were 2 JV teams, and then once we had seniors, we were able to play varsity. So
Okay. But the first year was just freshman age kids, though.
freshmen, sophomores, and juniors.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
so
the
they brought
first year.
in juniors in the
Mhm.
first year. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you still part of TAPS? I guess a lower division of TAPS, right?
No. So that's something that I've struggled with is when we opened, assuming we could have dropped down to a lower division, but I think the plan was, because we would eventually be a school of 700-800 or even 1,000 one day. We're just going to enter into the the biggest division of TAPS and
Okay.
hope that we can kind of take our growing pains and learn from it, and that's what we did. So we started playing the big schools. I think it was 5A back then.
Right.
But yeah, we
How was that first or second year of football?
it was tough, man.
Yeah.
We probably had 40 guys, maybe 50 guys.
Were people going both ways?
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There was I liken it to our year last year. There was not a lot to get super excited about on the field, but those guys that were in the locker room, they weren't in it, just because they wanted to win. It was something fun to do, and in fact, 2 of the guys that I played high school football and baseball with ended up being the best men at my wedding. So those relationships last.
Right,
and,
right.
I still stay in touch with my high school coaches. So bittersweet, sure.
Do you remember the first victory for the school, or were you part of that?
Yeah, I think as a varsity team, I think it was against HSAA.
What does that stand for? Or?
It's the homeschool team
Okay.
here in Collin County. We beat up on them a little bit, and then Gainesville State School. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I think yeah. Yep.
I don't even know if they have a team anymore. But we had to go play them in Sanger, and another cold night at the end of the year, and I think we won, 13-14, something like that, just by a few points.
So that must have been pretty cool, I guess.
Oh yeah, it was huge. We celebrated like we won the Super Bowl.
Right,
You know?
right.
The following year, my senior year, believe it or not, we didn't score a point until our 9th game of the year.
Oh wow.
We didn't get on the scoreboard until game 9, week 9. But we hit a buddy of mine, John Templeton, on a fade route up the sideline. DB just got shook and fell down, and John took it 75 yards for a touchdown. And
Nice. Okay.
I'll never forget that. I was actually sitting on the trainer's table. I'd kind of dealing with a nagging ankle sprain, later half of that year, and hopped up off the training table and was like hobbling up and down the sideline, hugging everybody, and just unforgettable. So
Awesome. What position were you playing when you were in high school?
I was running back and like a strong safety.
Okay. So you're going both ways.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's awesome. So went to John Paul. Take us to your life afterwards when you graduated. What's going on with you?
Yeah, I knew right away. I knew in high school that I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. I had such great role models here, both in the classroom and out on the field. Fell in love with English. Was always a big reader, and so I knew I wanted to teach English at some point. So that's what I studied. Went to LSU. Met some more, lifelong friends there, and learned quite a bit. Got some family down there too, so got to spend quite a bit of time with grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles. So that was a pretty memorable 4 years, and then graduated and decided I'm coming back to JP2. They didn't have a full-time position for me,
Okay.
so I figured, hey, I'll just coach on the side and maybe try to get my master's or find something part-time till a position opens up. But our dean at the time, Steve Minninger was his name. He came to me about 3 days before the start of the school year, and said, hey, we got a full-time long-term sub teaching position open for you. Would you want to do that? Just while we figure out what's going on. So I said, sure. I have no idea what I'm teaching, but tell me where you need me. So I started that fall in 2012, and really just kind of jumped into the teaching thing, and it was certainly different than what I had expected after doing some student teaching observation in college. And our principal at the time, Dr. Marlene Hammerly, was an absolute saint and kind of guiding me through my first few years in the classroom here, and really helped me kind of become a master teacher. And it was tough leaving the classroom after 6 years, and because I loved just interacting with kids on a day-to-day basis, and you learn so much from them. And there's always humor in young people, and we got to read some really cool books: Lord of the Flies, Ender's Game, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. So some of my favorite books ended up being some of the books that I got to teach, which is really fun. And then became the sports information director. So
Right.
And since then I've just been coaching.
So you don't teach right now. You're a full-time coach.
I coach and I handle the buses. I'm the bus guy now
Sure.
too. So
But
you
you're
can't
not-
just coach.
You're not teaching anymore, though.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, as the full-time high school coach, take us through your day. So, I guess off season, during season, what's your daily routine like? Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, once we're in season, I'll take my kids to school or daycare, or to Nana and Papa's house, because I don't get to see them when I get home because practice runs pretty late.
Sure.
So I'll spend a little bit of time with them in the morning and take them there. Once I get in, emails have stacked up quite a bit, so I'll go through my inbox for a little bit. You know, handle some transportation things, try and knock those out before lunch, so that, you know, I can watch a little bit of film at lunchtime, and then afternoons it's all about football. So talking to my coaches, meeting with my coaches, getting our practice plans together. You know, it's from about 2 p.m. on. You know, we'll get the kids. We're on an A/B day block schedule, so we actually get a class with the boys. Every other day. So we'll lift, do some agility work outside for about an hour. Take them to our nutrition center and get a protein shake or PB&J, and then it's film and meetings with the kids. Then it's practice from about 4 to 6. Send them home and do it all over again.
So let's say you're in mid-season. Tell us about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then game day, I guess, and the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Mondays are more mental days for us. You know, we'll spend quite a bit of time on special teams, and then more individual time. We call it indie in our practices. More indie time. Maybe some 7-on-7 and inside run, some half line work, but we won't get to team until Tuesday and Wednesday.
But you're still in full pads and hitting, right? Is this?
So that's something I've struggled with too, you know. And you see colleges doing it now, NFL's doing it now. They're practicing with full pads less and less. And so we're going to try and kind of model that this year. We're going to go helmets only on Mondays. We'll do shells on Tuesdays, which is just shoulder pads and helmet. You know, no lower pads.
But they're still hitting.
Still hitting. We're not taking guys to the ground yet. But we call it thud tempo. And then Wednesdays we'll go full pads and tackle. And then Thursdays is we call it Hollywood. It's just about an hour run through, making sure everything looks crisp, sharp, clean, no mental mistakes. Thursdays are also JV games, so the varsity guys will do their walkthrough and then go cheer on the young boys. And then Fridays is varsity game day.
So the varsity team doesn't join you guys on Fridays, or do they?
The JV
team. I'm sorry.
No, we won't suit up all those young guys.
So it's two separate teams, basically.
Yeah, there might be a handful that suit up for both. TAPS has what they call a 6-quarter rule, where you can only play 6 quarters in a 7-day span.
I see.
They don't want guys getting beat up, 2 nights in a row.
Sure.
Which makes sense. We're all for that. But they'll, you can mix it up. You can go two quarters in a JV game, and then you could play all 4, as kind of a backup guy in a varsity game. So they give us the flexibility to kind of manage that ourselves. But it's something we might look into.
Sure. And then, what's Friday game day like for you?
We'll start with mass in the morning. Our campus minister will hold a mass in our chapel downstairs, about 30 minutes. Not too long, but just kind of sets the tone for the day. And we'll go through our normal school day. Boys will go to class. Oftentimes there's a pep rally for us. Last 30 minutes of the day as well, which is kind of fun. And then eat a pregame meal together. We'll go get something catered, or we have a fantastic dining hall staff here, and no joke, man, they are like legit 5-star cooks, and
oh, wow.
we take advantage of that. So they'll.
What time is the pregame meal usually for you?
Usually between 3 and 4. Just kind of depends. If it's a road game, we might eat a little bit sooner. But yeah, we'll eat about 3 or 4. Send the boys up to the locker room here and get dressed. We'll send our specialists out early. Specialists are, your returners, your deep snappers, punters and kickers. Quarterbacks will start getting loose. They'll get out a little bit early for the rest of the guys. Those guys will come out maybe 30 minutes later, and then we'll warm up as a team together. Head back inside, cool off for a bit. We'll have a little motivation in the locker room.
How are you as a pregame coach? Are you loud and rambunctious? You more subdued? What's your style?
I'm pretty reserved, man. I've had coaches in the past that were super rah-rah guys, and they're good, but that never motivated me personally. I was always just internally motivated, and I think a lot of the guys that we have now are similar to that. There's a handful that you gotta slap them on the back and,
Yep.
and get them riled up to get them up to game speed. But for the most part, they're good starters. So yeah, there's a good group in our senior leadership group, our locker room, and I don't have to say a whole lot, which is nice.
Right.
Those guys know that they're ready. They're good at getting the rest of the team ready. So I rely on them. I want it to be their team too.
Right.
Right. So it should be player led. That's the plan. 7:30, kind of depending, is kickoff. So we'll go do our little tunnel run. They'll carry their flags out. We'll flip a coin and decide who gets the ball first, and then it's game on.
If you win the toss, what do you guys usually pick?
Oh gosh, man! I think in fact last year I think we were like 7 for 8 on
Okay.
coin tosses.
Do you always defer, or do you take the ball?
I like to defer,
Okay.
just because you never know what's going to happen in the first half, right?
Yep. Then you want the ball in the second half, right?
Yeah. It gives your offense to get a little juice and set the tone.
Yep.
But yeah.
So when the game starts, do you have your first set of plays already scripted out, or you just kind of feel it, or do you have different? I guess, is every game different for you, or are you one of those coaches where you're like, we have our style and you got to stop us?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's your philosophy? I guess?
Yeah, I think we're certainly a team that relies on a handful of bread and butter plays,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're a zone running team, so we'll go inside zone, outside zone, and like you said, force you to stop us. We got a couple of senior running backs that are big, 200-plus powerful dudes, 200-plus pound big dudes that can really tote the rock. So we're going to lean on them quite a bit, but we think our quarterback can sling it too.
Sure.
So we're gonna let him try and make some plays. We run an air raid system.
Can you explain what that means? I guess.
Yeah. So we're gonna spread it out, go 4 wide.
Mm-hmm.
We'll play with the tight end some. We'll attach them. We'll put them in kind of we call it a sniffer position, wing back. We'll move that tight end around quite a bit. But kind of West Coast principles, so a lot of quick passes, taking what the defense gives us. Not everything has to be, a 20, 30-yard shot downfield, but try not to be, scared to take those chances as well.
Sure.
So-
How'd you learn that style or implement that style? Where'd you get that from?
Just over the years, taking things here and there where
Mm-hmm.
where you have different involvements with guys of different philosophies. And of course, Mike Leach at Texas Tech and then
Sure.
Mississippi State, Washington State was kind of the innovator, the genius there. So
Do you see a lot of high schools doing that more nowadays, as far as instead of running, let's say, or option football or things
Yeah.
of that nature?
yeah, I don't think running will ever go away, but kids are starting to train so young now,
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacks and receivers especially, that they're coming to high school more and more prepared, and so that gives us the ability to do that, to pass it quite a bit more.
So that's an interesting point, because I always wanted to ask, when I played, and this was 30 years ago, it was very simple football. Like, you're going to run, and there wasn't much changing at the line of scrimmage. You're just
Mhm.
going to do what the coach told you, right? Now it's the kids are, like you're saying, slinging it all over the place. Like, how are they doing this? Are they just better than we were back in the day, or what is going on with them?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. They have access to better training.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the inception of these 7-on-7 leagues that play year round. These kids are playing. Football has become a year round sport,
Okay.
and it never used to be, right? Basketball and baseball were typically year round sports, but now kids can play football, 365 days a year.
Do you feel like they're more sophisticated now than when you were playing?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not to say that there weren't innovators back then, but I think yeah, the kids, even the kids we have coming in, the young guys, the freshmen, they're picking up, our new scheme pretty quickly. So I've been impressed so far. Now we'll change it up week to week, not our philosophy necessarily, but we'll throw in wrinkles, game plan wise on what we think we can attack.
Sure.
But yeah.
Oh wow. So what kind of defense do you guys play?
So we're 4-2-5.
Okay. Can you explain that? I guess.
Sure. Yeah. 4-2-5. The 4 means 4 down linemen. 2 is 2 linebackers, and then 5 is 5 DBs.
Do you have the 5
defensive
DBs
backs.
because there's other teams are passing more, I guess, or?
That's part of it.
Okay.
I've always said, and I've always heard it's been said that your personnel should dictate your scheme. So don't try and force your players into a certain mold if you don't have the right type of players for that scheme, right? If you got a bunch of small, fast guys, okay, you use their abilities, right?
Right.
And we do have we've got some small, fast guys, so we're gonna drop back, keep everything in front of us. We'll keep 2 safeties deep for the most part, and force guys to just chip away and dink and dunk and not make mistakes.
Right.
So mostly to defend the pass, but we still got 6 guys in the box between our 4 down linemen and our 2 linebackers. So trying to run on us should be a challenge as well.
Sure. And without giving away too many secrets, what's your halftime like?
It depends on what the scoreboard says, honestly. We'll let the boys go in by themselves first, and we'll meet just real briefly as a staff and kind of go over some things, and depending on where we're playing, it takes the guys that are up in the press box a couple minutes to get down to us. So we'll just kind of catch our breath and look at our notes and say, okay, well, what worked? What can we come back to? What do we have to adjust? What needs to change here in these next?
Are there a lot of
24
adjustments
minutes?
in halftime, you think? Or
again, I think it changes with where you're at in the game.
Sure.
If it's a real close game, you might not say, let's change anything, man. What we're doing's working, or it might be like, hey, they almost got us here, so we gotta totally reverse this. Or if you're up big or down big, so it really depends. But our coaches are great at coaching on the fly. I've got some really talented coaches, man. I'm lucky to have these assistants that I've got. Some of them have NFL playing experience, and quite a few have played in college. So I feel, and oftentimes I just catch myself listening to my guys, and
Sure.
Feel like a fly on the wall, and I learn so much from them. So I'll give us kind of a general direction. Hey, here's the game plan for the second half. They'll go implement that with their guys and see what we can do.
What's the most interesting part of you as the game's going on for you?
It's interesting. I've been the special teams guy for the last 10 years here, and so I've always kind of seen the game through that lens. How important the kicking game can be, and it really only is a handful of plays, right? Offense, defense might get 50, 60 plays in a game, but how many times are you actually kicking the ball or fielding a kick? Maybe a dozen, 10 or 12. So just how impactful those moments can be in a game. And so I've got my special teams chart that I'm writing on. I did my studies for the week on where I think they're going to kick it, who's their best returner, trying to pick and choose the matchups that I think can maybe change the momentum for us. And it's interesting because it's honestly the thing we practice the least, right? You can only spend a few minutes each day on special teams because you're only out there for a handful of plays, but one special teams play can be catastrophic.
Does the league restrict you on the number of hours you can practice every day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we practice about 2 hours a day. Their meetings, their film time technically doesn't count as practice, which is nice. But they're actually only on the field practicing together for 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So then game day happens, win or lose. What happens on Saturday, I guess, for you?
So we'll bring the boys up at about 9:30. Guys that may have gotten a little banged up, we'll bring them in maybe an hour beforehand.
Is it hard to get kids to come in on Saturday at 9 o'clock? Or?
No. We make them come in.
Yeah.
Say, you guys got to do this. That's part of it. It's an adjustment for the younger guys, but they see the benefit of it. guys that are hurt or nicked up, that they'll come in and see the trainers. We've got a great training staff, and they'll, do some ice or stem or something and, start to work those bruises out. Then we'll meet as a team and we'll all stretch together, do a little running and kind of get rid of some of that lactic acid. We'll do some brunch. Our moms and dads are great at, making sure we're well fed. They'll bring up some food for the team. And then we'll sit down about 20, 30 minutes, each side of the ball, offense, defense, special teams, and just kind of go over everything that happened. Got to be honest with ourselves. Hey, we did this well. We planned on doing this, but it didn't happen. What can we do better next time? So that kind of resets us, and everybody goes home, before noon on Saturday, feeling a little bit better.
Okay.
And give the boys the day off on Sunday. Coaches will Zoom or talk on the phone about the next week, but we won't meet in person on Sunday. Give everybody a little bit of time with their family, and I know boys like to go home and catch those noon college football kickoffs. So,
sure.
That's essentially the weekend, and then Monday starts, and it's all over again.
Do you find yourself looking at film or working on Sundays ever? Or?
Yeah,
All right.
quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just part of the gig, but I enjoy it. There's always little nuggets in there that you think, oh man, I'm glad I saw that.
Right.
I think that can help us next week.
Is it hard to get film on the other schools? I never understood how that happened. Do the coaches trade film, or how does that work?
Yeah. Back in the day, you had to exchange in person.
Right.
You'd have to meet halfway
and
or
then
something.
Actual film, like
reels or DVDs. Now it's super simple for us. We use an application called Huddle, which kind of has a monopoly on the high school football market.
I see.
Even with some colleges as well. But Huddle does game film for us. We'll upload our game film. We'll initiate an exchange with next week's team, and even a team, a couple weeks down the line, say, here was our game. We usually trade 2 or 3 games ahead of a matchup. We'll get their 3 games. We get to watch it all. A tight view of just kind of the interior linemen and then the quarterbacks and linebackers.
And most schools are good about the exchange, right? They don't hide anything.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
No, it's kind of a gentleman's agreement. In 11 years of doing it, I've never had a problem with bad film or anything.
Sure.
No, coaches are they understand how precious it is and how important it is to preparation. So they're pretty good about it.
Right. So then, as the season ends and you go into the off season, how does that change what you're doing, or what is there an off season routine? Or I'm sure there's you mentioned that some kids get recruited from John Paul. What's that like? Take us through that, I guess.
You bet. Following the last game, we'll do exit interviews with all of our players. That usually takes about a week.
What are you asking them, I guess, in the exit interviews?
So it's an exit interview with my coaching staff. We'll kind of grade each of our players. We've got a grading scale,
Okay.
how we think they did during the year, what they need to focus on during the off season, and kind of where we see their role, in the years ahead. And we'll share that with each player individually, and just so everybody's on the same page.
How is that mentally for the kids if they're in competition for position, I guess? Is that a tough thing to have to manage, I guess?
Maybe. I think they appreciate the transparency more than anything. That they want to know what they did well, but then they also want to know, hey, coach really needs me to work on this,
Right.
to be able to earn that starter's role position for the following year. So sometimes it truth can hurt a little bit, but for the most part the kids all respond well to it. So.
Okay.
We'll do those exit interviews, take back all their equipment. The guys that go on to play another sport, basketball or baseball or something, they'll transition to those other sports. So we won't see those guys until that sport ends, usually in the spring or even summer in the case of baseball. The guys that do stick with football in the off season, we'll do powerlifting and some track work.
Okay.
With those guys, quite a bit of weights.
Are these scheduled times?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got our athletic period every other day that those guys will lift together. We had about 20 in off season this past year, so those guys grow closer because they're with each other every single day, and they're working out and running and sweating together. So they, it's funny because the guys that aren't in the football off season, they see the gains that these guys are making, and they're like, oh, maybe I need to be in football off season next year.
So is this just conditioning and weight training, or is there actual football plays being run? Does the league allow for that?
Yeah. They do. I like to give the boys quite a bit of time off from football activities. We'll lift heavy weights hard for about 3 months, maybe November, December, January. Once February hits, track season starts up, then we'll kind of shift our focus to speed and agility. So we'll kind of back off the heavy weights. We're done with kind of our bulk phase there. And we'll start working on plyos and stuff, trying to get more flexible. And then once April hits, it's time to start ramping up for spring football.
Okay, so what's spring football like?
Spring football is 14 days for us of padded practices leading up to like a spring game.
Wow.
Kind of like they do in college,
Okay.
right?
And this is inter-squad scrimmage. Okay.
Right. So we won't go play anybody else, but we'll keep it all in-house and really kind of see the growth from the off season.
And you guys are hitting in pads at this time.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll do 3 days of acclimation, where it's just helmets only. But then after that, we can really do as much padded.
Okay. And the
work as
leagues
we
allow
want.
for this. Is there a set number of hours they tell you to do?
I think it's 15 days.
Okay.
TAP says that you can't do more than 15 days of spring football.
Okay.
So,
All right. How long? And so once spring ends, I guess, is there a lag time until summer starts, or is there another program in the summer for you guys? Or
yeah, there's maybe 2 weeks where we give them off, just totally off from everything. We'll give them dead week, the week up until finals off. Let them cram for their final exams, and then exam week, of course. School's out for a week, and then as soon as June hits, it's summer strength and conditioning time. So all those guys that were in basketball and baseball, they now rejoin us, and we start lifting as a team again. And the incoming freshmen, these 8th graders who are soon to be freshmen, they join us for the first time, so they get to see what high school football's all about. We do quite a bit of 7-on-7 in the summer.
Okay.
A weekly league where we'll play a few other teams one day and night, and then TAPS has a state tournament at the end of June.
Okay.
That we compete in also.
All right. So you're literally training all year long with your kids, right? With the team. What's that exit interview like for the seniors?
Oh gosh, man, I get emotional. They don't quite see the significance of it all yet.
Sure.
But the ones that come back and visit the team later on, they're like, man, coach, I miss it. Even the ones that are playing again in college, they all wish they could go back and have another game or another season in high school. They miss it quite a bit. But I just enjoy hearing from them. What their favorite experience was. What they learned, what they hope to leave for the next group. I get more out of it than they do, I'm sure. Just hearing all that.
You've had some kids go on to play football in college. When they're being recruited, what's your role in this as a high school football coach?
Sure. Yeah. My role is really to just advocate for our players. Really picks up during the spring. Coaches will come roll through, say, hey, I'm in town. Want to come check out your guys. In different times of the year, there's different rules on the contact that they can have. So if it's kind of a dead period, then we'll just come in here. We'll watch some film of kind of our top prospects together. We'll take a look at the kid's grades. We'll take a look at his film, his measurables. What does he bench? What is his 40 time? That kind of thing. So they can start getting some comps for the other kids that they're recruiting, but then the guys that they've got also. So we have NAIA schools coming through, JUCO schools coming through, D3, D2, even up to D1, Power 5, Group 5 schools. So it's quite a mix, We're fortunate to have had some pretty good dudes here as of late. And, the most recent is Caden Kittler. He's at UCF right now. He's an offensive lineman for him. He was an all-district, all-state guy for us, and was a real difference maker here. And can't wait to watch him on Saturdays.
Right,
So.
right. That's awesome. So, if someone says to you, "I want to be a football coach," or they're trying to get a job here, tell us what your interview process is like, and then also what advice you have for someone who wants to get into coaching, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Really, the first thing I want to know is kind of who they are, right?
Mhm.
What they're all about. What's their purpose? What's their motivation for being a coach? If it's about money, man, you're in the wrong business,
Sure.
right?
Is it really nomadic? I know you haven't been because you've been here for a while, but
Yeah.
are typical coaches really, are they traveling a lot, moving from gig to gig, or?
I see it a lot more in colleges,
Okay.
a lot more turnover in college. High school, you'll see it a fair bit.
Mhm.
Guys moving from one job to another. But for the most part, I'm certainly the outlier. Nobody really stays where they're at for 10, 12 years like this.
Right, right.
But yeah, I'm fortunate to have had a staff that's been together. Most of our staff has been together for 4 or 5 years now. Which is really great because you build, continuity that way.
Mhm.
The kids know what to expect. They're not learning a new scheme year in and year out. So that helps quite a bit
Right.
for us.
How much
Yeah.
tactical or strategic knowledge does someone need to kind of get your interest, I guess? Or?
Yeah, I think it depends on the position that I'm looking to hire them for.
Mhm.
If it's a position coach, man, just a basic general knowledge of football. Playing experience certainly helps. But just the ability to communicate and follow directions and be a positive role model for kids.
Right.
Now, if it's a coordinator, you got to know a little bit more there.
Mhm.
You got to know how to install and game plan, and film study is quite a big time consumer for coordinators.
Sure.
But yeah, it really depends. I'm fortunate to work with a great staff, like I said, and I learn from those guys just as much as they learn from me, I'm sure. I love just listening to them, so really, really blessed.
What kind of personality traits you looking for?
It's different. So my O-line, D-line guys have to be, big, strong voices, a little bit intimidating, right? Because they're kind of the tone setters,
Mhm.
They're in the trenches, so they're the ones that don't get the glory, right? So they got to be a little selfless, but those coaches have to be absolute, men. The skill positions, there's a little more finesse there, right? So a little more nuance maybe with those coaches. So I'm looking for really bright guys who can break down, a receiver's stance, his route. Why does he put this foot here? Why does he lean his head this way on this route? DBs, where are your eyes at on this play? What should you be looking at in this coverage? So there's so much mental preparation that goes into coaching those positions that the guys that I'm looking for have to be very well versed in those and experienced. So that always helps.
Do you typically see coaches going your route when they first get into it, where they have to kind of be like assistants or volunteers first, and then they kind of move up the ranks? Or
Certainly.
Or do
Yeah.
you see most high school coaches kind of come in, like Jason Witten type, where you're somebody big and they just bring you in and you've been given the spot?
Yeah.
How do you see the coaching ranks nowadays?
I think it's different in public schools than it is for private.
Mhm.
Most public school coaching jobs are associated with teaching positions,
Okay.
which is different from a lot of private schools. Private schools, I know we in particular rely pretty heavily on stipend coaches.
What's a stipend coach, I guess?
A guy that's not on staff full time,
Okay.
that doesn't teach. He's got another side job that he does, another full-time job
Mhm.
that pays most of his bills. And this is really just something that those guys do because they love football, they love being around these kids, and they just want to help. So I've only got two full-time guys
Okay.
here at the school.
How many coaches in total then?
We've got 9 right now.
Okay, so including yourself, so 3 of them are full time, and the rest are stipend coaches.
Yeah.
They kind of volunteer and help out.
Mhm.
Do they get? They do get a little bit of pay though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not much, but every little bit helps.
Sure,
So,
sure. Do you have plans to grow the full-time staff, or?
I'd
how's
like
that
to.
look? Okay.
Certainly. Obviously depends on our budget, right?
Sure.
How much are we allotted? But I'd love to have a coach for every position. We're almost there.
Mhm.
I'd love to have 1 or 2 more. But yeah, that's
Are you looking for help here? Maybe this video can help you.
Yeah, yeah. If you're looking for a gig, man, come talk to me. Come give me a shout.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
What's your favorite and worst part about being a coach?
Worst part is just being away from my family so much.
Mhm.
I've got my wife of 7 years now, Katie, and 3-year-old son Riley, and 1-year-old daughter Emmy. Football season's tough. I haven't seen them hardly at all this week.
Sure.
We just started camp, preseason camp. We're on day 3 here.
Have you had your first game yet?
No.
Okay.
No,
But
that won't
it's-
be till August 25th.
Okay, but
Yeah.
you consider yourself in season right now. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. School hasn't started yet, but
Yep.
football is rolling.
When's school start?
Yeah.
for you guys?
August 14th.
Okay, so
Yeah.
about a week.
Mhm.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. What's the best part, I guess?
A couple things really, seeing the guys, like I mentioned, seeing the guys that have gone on to college and even beyond come back and say, man, football was really formative for me, made a big difference. I learned a lot, maybe I didn't win very many games, but I certainly learned something. That's always, that hits home because
Right.
that's really what it is, man. I consider myself, a servant leader. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help these kids grow and learn and become men of positive influence. And if they come back and tell me that they've got a wife or a girlfriend and they've got this new job and they're doing all these good things, then maybe I played some small part in that.
Right.
That's for me. That's a win, right? And then the other good part of the gig is just a win, man. Just getting a win,
Right.
Yeah, I'll never tell the guys, hey, we got to go win this game, right? Winning, in my belief, is this is a Bill Walsh thing, 49ers coach. Winning is a byproduct, right?
Mhm.
Winning is just the outcome of you following your process and trusting your preparation. But when it happens, man, it's sweet. There's nothing
Right.
like winning a football game.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, Coach, it's been a great interview. Thank you again for doing this. But before we leave, tell us about John Paul, your program. Any final words about the school?
You bet.
Yep.
We're in our 19th year now, about 700 kids. We're a Catholic co-ed college preparatory high school here in Plano, Texas. Looking to expand, in Collin County and in North Texas. So if you have kids that are high school age, come interview, come get a tour, come apply. We're always looking to grow the school and grow the Cardinal family. As for the team, really excited about this year, pretty optimistic. The boys have us headed in the right direction, and sky's the limit for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Coach.
You bet. Thank you.